Good morning and welcome everyone. As you heard, today's talk is on the third eye, and we're going to do a bit of physiology so that we all know where it is and what we're talking about.
I always was thinking, where is it?
Well, now we shall find out. John put one back there as well. It's an extra for people to just pick it up. Put them up there.
Got one on the board.
On the board, well, you'll have to do that one yourself. I only have one here and I don't have any extra. Okay. Now, for the theosophical students, the third eye is as real as their physical eye. But because there is not much mention of it elsewhere or its function as to what it is and what it does, we need to do a little bit of talking about it. And I'm going to also give you these race evolution so that we can look at it and understand. I have my own. Okay. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about race development, and then we're going to do the constitution and where the third eye is, and then we'll talk about what it does. In the Secret Doctrine, this is a statement. We, the fifth root race, is on our first tuft of duration onward on the ascending cycle, are at the midpoint between the first and the second races. Now, if you look on your diagram, you will see the first race and the second race, correct?
Yeah.
On the curve coming down. Now, we were at the beginning of evolution, we're on the descending arc. Now remember, we're in the fourth round. We are the fifth subrace of the fifth root. Okay? Fourth round, we are the fifth subrace of the fifth root. So we have been in evolution for millions and millions of years, not hundreds and hundreds of years, millions of years.
So I have a question. So this means the fourth round, so this has been repeated 4
No,
times?
I'm explaining.
Okay.
Okay. So when you look at the first and the second races on the coming down, on the descending arc, okay? Please go outside.
Hello? Yeah.
Um,
Are you? Thanks, I'll be right down.
So it was very here.
oh, I'm just coming to it. This is a little bit better. Okay, falling downward, the races were then on the descending arc of the cycle because we're coming into materiality, correct? Okay. So, they were a spiritual race coming down. And on the ascending arc, now we have come to the middle of this point. At this is we're at the fourth round. Veer, please pick a couple of those. Yeah, and the one on the bottom. Now we are here, okay, and we're cycling upward. What we are coming down, if we know what we are, then we can match what we are not or what we are on the ascending cycle. Now, the first race is nascent. The second is astral, correct? It doesn't have a physical body yet. In the third only, we are adding coats of skin to ourselves to make it a solid body. In the middle of the fourth round, the physical body, she tells us in the Secret Doctrine, has been perfected. We're rounded. We were not rounded before, but we are rounded now. Fifth subrace is rounded. We have a perfectly functional physical body. If it doesn't function very well, it's because of our karma. We have done something in the past, or whatever the cause is, that it is not doing it. So these are nascent. Only in the third race we get coats of skin. In the fourth race we are the most solid. And now we're turning around and going. Where are we? We're the fifth sub of the fifth root. So we are now at 5.5, right? We're moving upward this way. And at the seventh, the cycle is complete. At the seventh root race, the cycle will be complete. We're the fifth root race. We're the fifth sub-race. There's going to be a sixth sub-race and then a seventh sub-race until the fifth is completed. Only at the end of that will there be some pause or rest. What happens in between the sub-races, this student does not know. It's not quite clear because it's not given. Okay? So
each race has 7 sub-races, right?
Yes, each race has 7 sub-races, and each sub-race has 7 family races. Okay? So it's extensive because she tells us that each nation, each tribe, has to pass this halfway point in order to continue on. If we don't pass it, what happens? We're left behind. Okay? So that you must remember.
And people who were just left behind, they
They get recycled at the beginning of the mantra.
But don't they reincarnate? For example, Native Indians, don't they, when they were?
Oh, those are not being left alone. They're dying out. It's not the same thing.
Are the souls reincarnate in the light race?
Okay, those nations that are disappearing from Earth, the egos are old egos. They have been in other civilizations before.
Yeah.
So they get mainstreamed into the American life to continue with their karmic evolution.
But
Okay,
not in
that's
the,
not what I'm talking about
not
here.
in the bodies of Native Indians.
No,
anymore.
not as Native Indians, but others. That is not what is mentioned here.
Yeah.
What is mentioned here is, after the middle point, it is stated, it is self-induced, self-devised effort because we are what? Self-conscious. So if the ego is not willing to do the work, is anyone out there going to enforce this? No, because in New York at the meeting, somebody said, I don't want to do any of this work. Yes, but that's your choice if you don't want to do it, but you're not going to be going forward because the evolutionary process pushes everything until the midpoint. After the midpoint, because we are self-conscious and self-devised effort is required, it no longer moves it onward. So that is, and we have already passed it, we're now cycling towards a spirituality.
So now
So-
we should move ourselves.
We have to. And she says, the Secret Doctrine states, since we have crossed the meridian point, the perfect adjustment of spirit and matter, or equilibrium between brain intellect and spiritual perception, has been achieved. Now that is a very interesting comment.
This is.
It truly is. It's an eye-opener. Now keep that in the background, and now we're going to look a little bit of physiology before we talk about the third eye. Okay. As you all know, the brain has 2 hemispheres, a right and a left. The left brain is analytical. The right brain is intuitive. So the left one says, I think I know. The right one says, I know, because it looks at directly ideas, right? Okay. Beta waves belong to the left brain, alpha waves to the right brain. Beta is fast, alpha is slow. Beta is 14 to 21 brain waves per second, and the other one is 3 to 13. This is just general background so that you know that there is two different aspects to your brain even. Okay? Now, in this,
So we should develop both brains.
well, we're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you look at your diagram of the brain, it shows you different parts. Now, this bit here is the cerebellum. This is the spinal cord coming up here, and there's a foramen magnum of the skull, and it just goes inside it. I don't have any way of showing it to you, but it does show the spinal canal right here, right? That's joining to your backbone. Okay. And there are ventricles in front of both the cerebellum and this part, which is the medulla oblongata. The third ventricle is this brown part, and the cerebellum has the fourth ventricle right in front of it. Okay, it's important because she talks about those things in the Secret Doctrine. Okay, so on the right, there's this purple-looking thing is the pineal gland, and on the left you have the yellow, which is the pituitary body. Okay, pituitary body, as you know, is the highest organ because it controls all of the hormone balances. It produces it, but it also controls all of the others. Pineal gland does what? She says in the Secret Doctrine it only has sand and some concretions in it because it was petrified, and I will put this on the board. Petrified. This, by the way, word was in the Harry Potter movies, and this student didn't know what it meant because they showed that if you looked at the eyes of the snake in that movie, you went like this and you were petrified. It looked like you were frozen. You were not dead, but you were frozen. So this word is very interesting in its use. She didn't say ossified, it is petrified. Okay.
In the woods, the
Sorry?
petrified woods, it's when they become solid wood from the ancient times.
That this
What's
is
in front of this museum, Natural History Museum?
they use this word.
Yeah,
Petrified?
Petrified wood, yeah.
That
And it's-
this student is not
looks
aware
like
of it.
marble. It's a tree, but looks like marble, and it's in front of. You can go and see it.
But this student brought this up because its value to you is very important.
Yeah.
Because if it was ossified, it would have been calcified. It would be a bone structure, but it isn't. It's instead it's an organ. Its physiology is not very much understood, but according to the Secret Doctrine, it is one of the most important organs in your body because it's connected to a spiritual man. Right. And that's the only reason this came about, so that we know where it is. And in the Secret Doctrine, it explains it, which we're going to go into. And she says, if the it's really somewhere in here. It's inside. It's in the inner brain. But she says, if the parietal bone was removed, you would have been able to see it, but you can't because it's buried on the inside. So,
Does it have any other presence in the brain? In other words, it exists there, but does it have any effect further from that point to the front of the brain, or not? Or is
well,
it-
let's just discuss it and it will come out.
Okay.
Well, what are this student really finds this. I would have preferred it if it wasn't done this way, because I can go here for the back of my head, but it's very difficult to go over here for me. Okay, so this is the back of the brain. This is the front of the brain. The frontal part of the brain does what?
Logical thinking.
Logical, analytical thinking. Okay, it's intelligence. In other words, your intelligence is measured by the frontal. And this is automatic, and
Which one is automatic? You said
the
this.
the
I couldn't see what you were pointing
the medulla oblongata and also the cerebellum has functions that are automatic. And
Oh, okay.
okay,
It's, in psychology we call it back brain. Back, so it's like you don't think consciously, but it thinks it by itself.
okay. We are told that the early fourth race men were three-eyed. Without necessarily, we are told, the eye being in the middle of the brow, like the legendary Cyclops, because in the pictures it's always here. But that's not where its position ever has been. She says that's just a, what did she call it? A license that was taken for putting it there. It never existed there. Okay. So, we're told that we believe that the spiritual and psychic involution proceeds on the lines of physical evolution. One has to diminish in order for the other one to express itself more. Right?
Yes.
Because we're coming down, we're spiritual, ethereal, we have no substance, we're coming into evolution. By evolutionary process, we're going to be immersed into the substance. Correct?
Yes.
We're going to evolve coats of skin. So, the spiritual aspect of us will diminish, the physical aspect will increase, is what that means.
As we descend
Yes.
into
Mhm. So the inner senses, which are innate in the first human races, atrophies during the racial growth and material development of the outer senses. So we need to understand that. So,
Say it again.
the spiritual and psychic involution proceeds on parallel lines, she tells us, with physical evolution and the inner senses.
So that does that mean that as the physical evolution descends, at the same time there's ascendancy on another? No.
No, it means you're a spiritual being. You're coming into substance to gain experience and knowledge. Okay? That's what evolutionary process is. And we are at the midpoint. We are totally immersed in substance. And she says that the next sense that is going to develop is what? Permeability. That to me shows that we're going towards what? Ethereality, that our density is going to lessen as we go upward towards spirituality again. We didn't have any density. We had no material substance around us. So we came and immersed into substance from starting at the third root race. The third root race also got intelligence because the mind was lighted up. By the end of the third root race, we had mind principle. So the third root race is the one that went through the most change, evolutionary change.
So you're saying
Then we went through the fourth, then we're in the fifth.
okay, I think I understand the statement now. The spiritual involution the physical evolution corresponds to the spiritual involution.
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. So, and we are told we were hermaphrodite.
That's deep.
Hermaphrodite. We were hermaphrodite beings.
When? In the
Before
third-
we separated into two sexes.
So in the third, before.
Before the middle of the third, we were all hermaphrodite.
Okay.
Okay? We were four-armed creatures in those early days of male-females, hermaphrodites, with one head and three eyes. We could see before and behind.
I have a question. You just mentioned that we just got involved in the physical body on the fourth, so how...
I'm sorry, what did you say?
We got involved in the physical body on the fourth
Third,
round?
third,
This is the fourth round.
here.
Oh, you're
All of
talking
this is
about
the
fourth
all
round?
of this is the fourth round.
Okay.
All of it is fourth round.
Root race.
the root races come one after the other. Okay, we're in the fourth round. Okay, we have moved beyond the middle of this arc here,
Okay.
and we're now cycling towards a spirituality.
So this four-armed creature was in which one of those
Which
stages?
one?
The formed armed creature.
Third.
Third. So that's what I don't get. It third what? Third round or subrace or root?
Third root race.
Root race.
Third root race. She calls them Lemurians she agrees to call them Lemurians in the Secret Doctrine. She says they are called by other things, not Lemurians. And the fourth root race is Atlanteans, and the fifth race is referred to as Aryan root race. Okay. This is a very deep subject.
Aryan, I mean A-R-Y-A-N?
Yeah, noble. Okay.
That's what Hitler was
Please,
talking about.
can we concentrate on the third eye
Yeah.
so that my thought process is not interfered with? Okay. Okay. When the fourth race arrived at its middle age, the inner vision had to be awakened, we are told, by acquired artificial stimuli, the process of which was known to the old sages. In other words, the third eye had been petrified. Okay? The third eye, likewise, getting gradually petrified, soon disappeared. The double face became one face, and the eye was drawn deep into the head and is now buried under the hair. During the activity of the inner man, trances and visions of the masters or those who are able to use this faculty of the third eye, the eye swells and expands. The arhat sees and feels it and regulates his actions accordingly. So in order for this eye to become functional in us, we have to activate it. Correct? Okay.
And it's petrified right now.
It's petrified in
everybody.
most of us.
Which
Okay?
means it's just frozen.
Yes.
Yes.
The inner sight could henceforth be acquired only through training and initiation. Initiation being internal. Someone is not going to call you on the phone and say, now you're going to be initiated. It is not that kind of initiation we are talking about. There is the higher self. We are under the jurisdiction of the higher self. And we are guided by our conscience. When we are ready for this awakening, it's an internal process that we go through, and then it is awakened. Okay? Natural and born magicians, she calls them, and sensitives and mediums have this organ in function. And then she says this expression of petrified instead of ossified is very curious. This expression, she says, refers to the pineal gland, so-called, the small pea-like mass of gray nervous matter attached to the back of the third ventricle of the brain, is said to almost invariably contain mineral concretions and sand and nothing else. Very interesting. Just concretions and sand. Our most spiritual organ is that. Then we are told the undefiled Lanu or disciple or student need have no fear or danger, he who keeps himself pure and chaste in order to receive from the Diva eye. So, Diva eye has requirements to fulfill it. We're all lay people. We're all married, have families, children, right? So in some life, we're going to be celibate. It's necessary to be so. We cannot ask any help from this eye unless we're celibate, it says, according to you. But she says, unfortunately, that statement does not apply anymore because the eye is already petrified. It's not there, for common use. The pineal gland, she says, is the witness to that operation of the third eye. it's now pulled into the brain and it no longer functions in most of humanity. The development of the human eye gives support, we are told, to the occult anthropology because the human embryo shows that the eye grows from within, without. Like in the insects, in cuttlefish and others, it is developed under the skin, from the skin, but not so with the humans. The eye is part of that inner brain function, and it develops with the two other eyes, with the optic thalamus having that fissure there. Even if we are not able to see it, she says it's there in the embryo. It develops from inside out. And she says, what about proof? Well, she says, if it started on the inside, the theory of Darwinian lines of development goes into the wastebasket because it is not an external organ, it's an internal one. Occultism, with its teaching, shows that the gradual development of the senses are from within, without. It is not the other way around, because last week the student told us that the jiva is absorbed into the astral, and astral is the electromagnetic shape, is the one that enables this body to formulate itself on it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, this is also called by the Hindus the eye of Shiva, and she says that in connection of the abnormal eye, which is that of the seer, it is dependent on the purity of the seer and also the celibacy and chastity. She says, we learn that the third eye was once a physiological organ, and later on, owing to gradual disappearance of spirituality and increase of materiality, it became atrophied. And now, she says, it is very little understood by physiologists, just like the spleen is. There is an article that you all might wish to read about the spleen being the organ par excellence of the astral body. So she now and then makes these hints for us to learn from. And then she says, sexual action being closely connected by interaction with the spinal cord and the gray matter of the brain, it is useless to give more explanation. Then she says, of course, the normal and abnormal state of the brain and the degree of active work in the medulla oblongata reacts powerfully on the pineal gland owing to the number of centers in that region. If you look at your diagram, you will see it, which controls by far the greater majority of the physiological actions of the animal economy. And so there must be exerted a very powerful inductive action by the medulla on the pineal gland. Now she explained it as to why we cannot have physical activity influencing the pineal gland. The pineal gland then needs to be influenced only by what? Spiritual activity. That to me is what that says.
But what you just said something about sex. So
Sorry?
Sex, and it's
That is not a spiritual activity.
yeah. But,
That is physical activity.
But you said it's influences. You said it just now.
I'm reading it. Of course it does. And that is why you have to be a celibate.
Okay.
She's explaining why physical
so it
activity of that
influences
nature
in
and spirituality don't go together.
Okay.
Which master is married? I don't think
Yeah.
there is any of them out there. Okay? So she explains it, but in a nice way. She's putting it out there for you to understand. And this student is just trying to explain it
Okay.
in a nice way too. Okay. Okay.
But I can't think of the reason. Well, what's the relation?
I'm sorry?
What's the relation of, these two together? I don't understand.
You mean the physical and the spiritual you don't understand?
I don't understand the reason why you should practice celibacy in order to be more spiritual. What's the relation exactly? I don't understand.
Okay,
I think it's not
we're
clear.
just told that the physical activity through the spinal cord affects the inner brain.
Mhm.
Isn't that what she's telling us?
Sure.
Okay. And what is the inner brain contain? The pineal gland on one side and the pituitary on the other. Okay? The pineal gland is the organ par excellence. It's your third eye. It's your spiritual eye. It's the eye that opens the universe to you internally, to the invisible aspects of your life. And it is correspondent to the inner awakenings of your soul. Okay? And inner awakenings of the soul eventually will lead you to be able to observe through the third eye, which is your pineal gland, the invisible realms of the universe. If you wish to continue with an occult study, you have to activate that eye. And the activation of that eye requires initiation. Initiation into what? Mysteries of life. These were called mysteries in Plato's time.
Well, were all initiates celibate? No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, they are.
All initiates?
Eventually they become celibate.
Eventually.
Yeah.
But
Like
they-
us. Okay?
But
We're-
neophytes wouldn't necessarily, initiates that were in neophyte stage wouldn't necessarily be celibate.
Neophytes are also students of this inner life,
Yes.
okay? Each human being who's following the inner awakenings of their own soul know where they are in the scheme of things. This student is not an advanced student to make judgments about any of this stuff. It's simply sharing what has been gathered from
Yeah, I
the Secret
understand, but what-
Doctrine.
Yeah, no,
So
but-
to make general statements that might apply or might not apply, this student cannot do. But it stands to reason that if you are going to be initiated into the mysteries of life and you are going to be given secrets of the arcane knowledge, somewhere along the line you're going to be sworn to I don't know what.
Okay.
But she says it in that article of Chelaship as to what is required of the student to be able to walk that path. This is not the talk. We're not talking about any of that today. That's a different talk.
Well, I think you can't avoid talking about it because you made a very definitive statement.
It's from here.
Wherever it's from, it was made today.
Okay.
And since it was made today, this is what we're speaking of.
Okay,
And-
so,
and
yeah.
now, on this point,
Okay.
which is a very crucial point, one that I don't think we should gloss over. But anyway, for my own sense of understanding,
Mhm.
okay, it seems to me, and this is all reasoning, this is not anything else, this is just a reasoning standpoint, that yes, initiation, you have to get to a point of initiation where you, in order to be able to open up a world that's unseen by the physical eye. Now, individuals, that means people, souls, right, have to take that path. I'm suggesting to you that at the beginning of that initiation, I don't suspect that everyone had reached the level of purity that it would take to open up that inner world at the beginning of the path. So that when they reach that point, has to be, it seems to me, in a physical world, a diminution of the physical in order to have the spiritual. So you have to reduce the physical aspect gradually in percentages before you would reach a point of an adept who may be totally pure, in the sense that celibacy would be required to reach that level of purity. So
Okay.
I'm suggesting that it would have to be on a scale of gradation.
Yes, all of it is.
Okay.
Because as we read the parameters last week in regard to another question you had, all of them have to be traversed, starting with dana, which is love and charity, harmony, patience, all those, we have to incorporate them into our nature to become altruistic in our lives. And it cannot be a one-step road, we said, that it has to be done as we progress. You're living the life to the best of your ability by incorporating those into your life. This is the same thing. The path is what you become. The path is what you become. You're the one. The Master says, I am the path and I am the way. So must you, in imitation, become that. Eventually, when you're ready to walk this path, whatever life that is, you would know what to do, okay? Because you have purified your nature to such a degree that it becomes a natural way to do it, not a external something forced onto you. It is an internal awakening process, and as you struggle in that ardor to fulfill the requirements in a natural way, these things will come. They're just a progression of the soul life, inner life. But this Diva I, in order to be of your assistance, needs to have a purified soul. Okay? Okay. Now, I'm sorry. You were also asking a question, and I don't think it ever got answered. And I really don't have any more time to.
Well, then you can start with question and answer with.
Well, because the questions came, and I didn't give any of this stuff.
I think it's so interesting. Let's have an agreement.
But
and you
everybody
can
has
see
other
you.
places to go
Not
to.
today. We have 5 or 10 more minutes.
Those
I
who
think there is
want
a
to
value
go,
for
they can
discussion.
go, and we will stay.
Okay, I will give it another 15 minutes, okay, and see what we can do in the
Thank
15
you.
minutes. Okay. Now, she says, here is what is said about the pineal gland, which is in the interbrain, as we have discussed. Let me see. The 2 optic thalami formed from the posterior back and the outer part of the anterior vesicle consists at first of a single hollow sac of nervous matter. She's telling us how it is formed, the cavity of which communicates on each side in front with that of the commencing cerebral hemispheres, and behind with that of the cephalic vesicle, which is corpora quadrigemina. And once the material that deposits itself increases from behind, below, and from the sides, the thalami becomes solid. And at the same time, she says, a cleft or fissure appears between them above and penetrates down into the internal cavity, which continues to open at the back. This cleft is the fissure or the 3rd ventricle. And what else? And at the end of the 3rd month, it is noticeable, as well as the peduncles of the pineal gland. The peduncles are 2 tubes that go from the pineal gland towards the optic thalami. The student does not know how these things come together to work together. It's not explained anywhere, but you have to use a little bit of your imagination as well. And the formation of the pineal gland in the pituitary body presents some of the most interesting phenomena which are connected with the development of the inner brain. And here it is where she says if you remove the parietal, you would be able to see it. It is well known, she says, if we do not consider the existence of an immortal principle in man, that Descartes saw in the pineal gland the seat of the soul. I want you to please absorb this section as best as you can. The seat of the soul. Although it is joined to every part of the body, he said, there is one special portion of it in which the soul exercises its functions more especially than in any other. And as neither the heart nor yet the brain could be that special locality, he concluded that it was that little gland tied to the brain, yet having an action independent of it, as it could easily be put into a kind of swinging motion by the animal spirits which cross the cavities of the skull in every sense. And from the other one, we are, where is this? I will tell you what the animal spirits are. She tells us. Sorry, it's a bit mixed up. Nerve aura. Nerve aura is equivalent to the animal spirits, or, with a question mark, currents of nerve auric compound circulation. Now we know that the astral body has a circulation of its own, right? Because it absorbs the jiva. Now, this perhaps refers to that, this student does not know. But Descartes obviously had the inner eye, otherwise he wouldn't have come up with the stuff to tell us. And this auric compound nerve current is definitely in there in the brain. And it has an influence on the pineal gland because the pineal gland is the seat of the soul, we are told. She says that it is Descartes that is telling us, but she wouldn't have put it there if it didn't have a meaning for us. So you can go to the Secret Doctrine on page 298 and please read it for yourself, because this is very interesting stuff that is in there.
Nerve current.
Nerve auric compound current, yes.
And could you say what is
Auric is, she spells it this way.
no
Auric, aura.
the in Secret Doctrine, what is the chapter and
Oh, the chapter is the third eye. I got all of this from the Secret Doctrine. It starts on 294.
volume 2?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
294. Page
Because I
2.
read in Russian, so it's
Yeah, 294 and onward. She explains all this in detail. It's very interesting. I'm just saying bits and pieces of it, and it's a bit skimpy the way I'm doing it because I don't have the time to go into all of it.
I think 1 hour discussion time is really
Not enough. Not for this kind of talk.
We have to increase it to at least 2
Yeah,
hours,
it's
because
not really
otherwise we
enough.
can't finish anything.
So, she tells us that, and here, it was on the other one I was. Okay. I've lost my place. Okay. It says here, let us remember that the first race is shown in occult science as a spiritual within and ethereal without. The second, psycho-spiritual mentally and ethero-physical bodily. The third, still bereft of intellect in its beginning, is astrophysical in its body and lives an inner life in which the psycho-spiritual element is in no way interfered with, as yet, by the hardly nascent physiological senses. Its 2 front eyes look before them without seeing either past or future, but the third eye embraces eternity. Embraces eternity. So, the knower is the higher self. The third eye obviously is connected to immortality and all of the lives we go through. It sees eternity. So there is no now, here, yesterday, tomorrow. but it looks at events or facts or truth with no time and space sequence.
Does it have the limit of time and space?
Yeah, it does not. It sees eternity. So it's the knower in conjunction with the third eye gives you wisdom, obviously. This is the power you get by using it to know what to do, when to do it, how to do it in a perfect coordinated fashion. So it does have its place in the schema of stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there a relationship, you think, between the pineal gland and the heart?
In one of the articles, this statement is in. We are to cultivate an intelligent heart and a compassionate mind. Okay? So the function of the mind and the heart has to complement one another. And Descartes says we have not reached that stage. He came, what, 1560, something like that, to 16 something. So we're talking about, what, 16th, 17th centuries. We are 21st century and we have not achieved it yet. So when we achieve that, I'm positive that the expression of the heart will not be any different than that of the pineal gland. This is my opinion. I haven't seen it anywhere. Okay. Simply conjecture. Simply
I've
conjecture.
seen that I've read that somewhere that the heart is connected to the pineal gland, so it's.
This student hasn't seen it, so but that's conjecture on my part that
And
eventually
heart is
the
very
expression
important.
will be that.
So we know about function of the pineal gland now from the heart, but later when we be more developed, we go when we open the soda, we go straight. But now we go through the heart.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Here we are. We are only in the fourth round, and it is in the fifth that a full development of manas as a direct ray from the universal Mahat, a ray unimpeded by matter, will be finally reached. So now we are using the brain, correct? But according to this, Mahat is going to be a direct ray expressing itself without the hindrance of matter. And then I think it will be that, what you just said. It says here, one race then has as a root race, our race then has as a root race crossed the equatorial line and is cycling onward on the spiritual side. But some of our sub-races still find themselves on the shadowy descending arc of their respective national cycles, while others again, the oldest, having crossed their crucial point, which alone decides whether a race, a nation, or a tribe will live or perish, are at the apex of spiritual development as sub-races. Where are the masters? In the east. Tibet, Kashmir, and those areas, they mix with the general public because the masters are known to those people. Read the Mahatma letters. They know who the masters are. They go to them for help. So if they're mixing with that part of the world, with the local population, the population has to be spiritual enough to be able to contact these beings. Because they say if they came to the West, they would either be considered demons or gods, and we would either do this or shoot them or something. So, you have to use a bit of imagination. And she says here, it must be remembered that these are only physical correspondences that we are talking about, just as the ordinary human brain is the registering organ of memory, but not memory itself. And then she says, now that which the students of occultism ought to know is that the third eye is indissolubly connected with karma. So, there was this paper to talk about that, but it is too long and we don't have the time. So we're going to finish it here and open it to your questions, and perhaps other things will come out. This really needs another hour.
Yeah,
We
continue
barely
next
touched
time.
it, sorry.
Why don't we just go for 2 hours? Because 1 hour, really? Because 1
No.
hour you can't do anything.
I can't do that because tradition says that it is 1 hour, and we try to
Just do it.
stay with it as close to it as possible. And I am happy to talk to those of you who do not wish to leave it, but the formal part of it is,
Can you do a
It's
part
very-
2 in November? I think the next.
we can give it
schedule.
another hour later on.
How about in October, the 3rd week in October?
Okay, we can do the third eye again. Well, I had put some other topic there. We'll do continuation of the third eye. Okay? Okay.
And the chapter that you were referring to in the Secret Doctrine is called the Third Eye.
Yes, the title of that section is the third
And
eye.
mostly what you were talking about today
Yes,
come from
it
there.
is the third eye.
we can
Yeah,
read
this
it.
is all of what I have talked comes
Oh.
from the Secret Doctrine.
Volume 1?
Very good.
I have to then look, pull it out and look it because I do not know.
Sorry.
It's been a while. 294 is what I said,
Yeah.
correct?
Okay.
294. Because this section was gotten from there. It must be 2, I think it is number 2. 294. Yeah, it has to be volume 2.
Volume 2.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, here on number 300 is the thing I copied for you. So it starts at 294 and goes on. Yeah, let me see what the title was so that I'm not lying to you. Because I searched it quite a long time and I found this old collective.
And Tunjan,
Yeah.
how comes that some people already live with open third eye?
Because
us.
in the previous life, they prepared for it. And there are some children, as you notice, the young ones, who are very altruistic and charity oriented, but they're barely 5, 6 years old, and they're doing great work for the world. So, for many of us who are in this endeavor, she tells us that we are the forerunners of the 6. We read it in the letters that we discussed all through the summer. She told us that we're the forerunners of the 6 sub-rays. She actually came out and said it in the last one, I think, or the one before that. And I showed it to all of you, that we are the forerunners of the 6 sub-rays, which is going to take place here in the Americas, not just United States, but the Americas. And she says that's why this amalgamation process is going on here, that this great nation is going to come out of the Americas. And we're the forerunners. But we also have karma that we have brought with us from the previous lives. And whether, in other words, the student does not know what exactly we were doing in the previous life, but that we were together in some manner. Perhaps it's possible that something happened to interrupt that effort, and we're trying to realign ourselves with it in this life. And so if you achieve in becoming Buddhimanasic, you will have the memory of it when you enter for your next incarnation, and you will be able to continue with the same effort. And HPB, this article says, I will read a little bit because it was so interesting and so uplifting. It just opens everything up. It says here, HPB and Judge, studying and applying as well as promulgating the wisdom religion in all directions, worked as masters themselves must work to maintain in the body union of Buddhimanas, work to create a change in the Buddhimanas of the human race, not just America or Europe, but the human race. Whether we say self-organization, self-discipline, or self-sacrifice boots little. What is of surpassing importance is that the only true theosophical association is the association of buddhimanas, alike in the individual and in any collection of individual egos. The first step in universal brotherhood is individual and personal. It is the will to reform one's self, devotion to the best interests of others, enlightened unselfishness. One single man can become a nucleus, a center, a seed of brotherhood by his own will and effort. No number of men can become a nucleus either by the surrender of their will to another or others, or by any cultivation or refinement of the psychic nature. The first lesson in true occultism has yet to be learned by theosophists at large. True chelaship is an attitude of mind continuously maintained. Buddhimanas versus kamamanas. And I was going to specify as to what those things were and how to overcome our problems. So we'll do it in the next one. So this is it. We have to convert the kamamanas to buddhimanas. That was the main effort of the masters of wisdom for bringing this knowledge out, so that we would have everything written and not people coming and claiming I am this and I am that, but we have the written message and we can read it, we can assimilate it, we can ask questions, we can learn it and give it out as best we can and work for it. And in time, that assimilation comes from inside out in its own way. Each one of us are fitted for a particular aspect of that work. We're not all the same. We're all different, but we're fitted for it because we are the forerunners of this sixth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.